I'm Chelsea, and welcome to our podcast and Check Your Connection. I'm here with Kelsey, one of our council member, and also we are very lucky and very scared as we've got the CEO Rachel Dodgson who will be with us. So I apparently have to behave. Kelsey, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep, so I'm Kelsey. I am a call consultant in the North region. I am also in the council, which is amazing. It's great to work with amazing people. I am also in the interviews. I'm also in the inductions. And everybody counts. And health and safety, and a safeguarding summit.
Basically, Kelsey does a lot. And well, as I've introduced a little bit, Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you. I'm Rachel Dodgson. I'm the Group Chief Executive. And if you think you're scared, Chelsea, I'm quite scared about doing a podcast, but really pleased to be here. I live in London and I've been with Dimensions for almost 4 years.
This is apparently number 8 of our podcast, and if you've actually managed to get this far, then it will be good that you've come this far, I guess. So as you can imagine, we're going to have our little chit chat in a minute. We're going to have the download section and then the lingo bingo, and then say goodbye to everyone. We are quite excited about today. The council wanted to talk about the cost of living, and as that's very relevant to the world we are living at the moment, then we thought it was a good idea to talk about it. And who else could we talk about sort of how we tackle the cost of living crisis, and with our CEO who knows stuff and how to support the people we support. And yeah, we just hold her to an account, I guess. So Rachel, we would like to ask you a few questions, and one of them is, what is Dimensions doing about the cost of living?
Okay. Thanks, Chelsea.
For support workers.
Okay, great. Let me talk about support workers first then. Obviously, really worried about the cost of living, particularly because a lot of the people who work in Dimensions are support workers. But what have we done? We've given people 3 pay uplifts, so 3 pay increases in the last 12 months. So we've tried to do everything we can to get money into people's pockets, and we'll be giving people another pay rise next month as well. So we're really trying very hard to do that. And the year before last, we made a bit more money than we expected to. We're a not-for-profit, so we put our money back into the company. But if we do better than what we think, if we perform better than we think we will on the money, we share that extra money across our colleagues. So we gave everybody a bit of extra money a couple of years ago. I think we tried to do some other things. So we've got an app for our employees where people can access discounts on things like going out for meals, going to the cinema, shopping at supermarkets, going on holidays, all sorts of different discounts that you get if you work for Dimensions. And the other thing is that people can draw down some of their wages in advance. So if you're a bit worried about your money one month, you can take some of that money in advance to help you get through the month. The other thing that I'd say we've been doing is really trying to shout up about the problem, not only in Dimensions. So I've done a lot of work about going out and talking to Parliament. I gave evidence at the Health and Social Care Select Committee. We've got our workforce manifesto that they've talked about in Parliament. I had a letter in The Guardian published. So as well as thinking about what we can do inside to help people, it's also thinking, how do I help raise this issue outside of Dimensions so that other people understand the difficulties that the sector has?
I just want to follow up one thing you said. which is how can they access the discount ones, because that could be quite important for then when they go out and about with the people they support, and use that to do it if they're going out for like teas and coffees or food.
Yeah, so when everybody joins us, they get information about it's an app that you have on your phone. So it's quite all the information is there on the intranet for the people that work for us to find. And it can even include things like buying a bike for work, and you get that reduced, you pay a less amount of money for it. So there's all sorts of things on there to help people. But it's through an app, Chelsea, that's how you find it.
Do quality consultants qualify for those things? Because we're not on the ground, but we're not support workers, so it always feels like that.
Well, if you're an employee of Dimensions, which if you're a quality consultant, you do get paid for that, don't you? So I'm looking at Michelle in part here as well. But if you're an employee of Dimensions and we pay you like we pay anybody else that works for us, then you can use the app. Yeah, the app is there available to all our employees and the blue light card.
So in the council, we've been talking about how to keep ourselves safe, also with the cost of living and like different ways we can keep our money up to safety, so we're not going over the price of stuff. So we've been talking to people, and then next month we're going to the face-to-face council meeting, and we're having someone come with us, hopefully come to see us and talk about it more. So Rachel, so how are we helping people with support with understanding risking costs?
Thanks, Kelsey. And it's a really important thing, isn't it? Because we know that a lot of the people we support don't have a lot of money. So helping people understand how they can save money and cut costs is really important. I think one of the things that I'd expect to be happening, I'm sure it does, is the support workers who work with people, helping them think about budgeting. Because actually we all have to budget whatever we do. So it's how support workers can help people think about their money, plan their money well and budget for it. I know one of the other things we've done where we people are tenants in our properties is making sure that we get good rates for electric and gas supplies. So I know that we work really hard to make sure we get a big deal that covers across the organisation, so we're getting the lowest rates that we can for people, because that's a big part of the increase in the cost of living, isn't it? And I know that we also are housing advisors or signpost people to the Citizens Advice Bureau and places like that if there's problems around debt and money. So helping people find the right organisations that have know all the right things about helping with that. And I think, you talked the things that the council have done around taking part in the webinar, about giving people tips. It's helping people find that easy read information, isn't it? Because a lot of the time information is not accessible to people. So it's how we can help people find that information to help them understand. And for me, a lot of that is about our support workers working really well with people to help people understand. Do you remember we had the day with the council and the board members, didn't we? In Reading, and do you remember there we talked about the cost of living? So I think that's something else, the board understand that it's difficult too, and I think it's really good to have that chat between the council and the board about the things that you're worried about, and the cost of living was one of them, wasn't it?
Yeah. So one of the council's 4 priorities this year is the cost of living crisis, as it really affects us all. So we want to talk about it. So that's what we're doing.
I don't know if you saw in the budget, the budget was announced this week by the government, and they're going to give. There's going to be more help for people with their electricity and gas bills for a little while longer. They were going to stop that. That's going to last for longer. And the other thing that I think is important about the budget is the government is quite complicated, isn't it? But cost of living is about something it's called the CPI rate, which I don't pretend to fully understand. But what that means is inflation's been really, really high, which has really impacted the cost of living. And what they're saying is that inflation rate is going to come down. So that should also start to help. So whilst we can think about what we can do here in Dimensions, it's also helpful to look outside and think, well, what are the other big things that are happening that's going to make a difference?
Yeah, and they also actually said about the budget, about um how they're going to change benefits as well, and that's what we need to think a little bit about when we do the council meeting, and have a prepared answer for it in case people want to know.
It's a really good idea.
I feel like with the benefits, it needs to be changed a bit. In my opinion, I think that as human beings we vary, and we can't always work once every week. We might work a few hours a month or something like that, and I feel like they need to change that from weekly to possibly monthly, because you could do like a whole full 40 or 60 hours, maybe not in a week, but across a month, and I feel like that needs to change. So we want our listeners to go to the Taking Charge website, where you can find more of the information. Okay, so our third question is slightly a personal question, but not too personal, Rachel. But how have you noticed things changing in your own life? So this is referring to the cost of living.
Yeah, thank you. And it's gosh, it's a good question. It's a tricky question in some ways. I sit here knowing that actually I get paid a good wage for what I do, and really mindful that that's different to a lot of the people in the organisation. But obviously I've got friends from all sorts of different walks of life who I know are struggling, and it still does affect me. I still need to think about my money. So things that I've been doing, I bought myself an hoodie. Have you heard of an hoodie? Anybody?
No.
So an hoodie is a combination of a hoodie. It's like a hoodie and blanket all in one. So it's a big, massive hoodie that's got a furry lining. And so in the winter, when I've been working at home, rather than putting my heating on, I sit with my hoodie on, working at my desk. I look a bit funny in meetings sometimes, but I sit here with my hoodie on, keeping warm. And things like, rather than heating the whole house, if I haven't got my hoodie on, I've just got a little radiator, and I just use that in the room that I'm sitting in. So I try to do that, and I guess something else I do is I've always given money to my local food bank. I've done that for a long time, and I started to give more money to my local food bank since the cost of living crisis, because I recognise there's a lot of people that live near where I live that are really struggling. So that's the other thing that I've done. And I try and use my appliances at night. That's the other thing I should say. So my washing machine and my dishwasher, I can set them to come on in the middle of the night. So I set them to come on at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm in bed. And that means it costs a bit less money to run them.
Yeah, I'm in the flat and I would hear it from my room.
Yeah, so it wouldn't work for you, Chelsea. It wouldn't work for you.
No. So I realised we forgot a segment in the introduction, which is of course the council updates, which is funny because I'm the vice chair and I should know that. So we spent a whole gallery session talking about relationships. So I'm planning our April meeting. So that's quite exciting, because we're going to go into the possibly meet up, unless we have to go back and not be able to do it. We heard from Alan Critchley, the chair for the safeguarding safeguarding committee. So that was important to talk about it. And we talked about Kelsey doing a health and safety update. Do you want to add to that, Kelsey?
We talked about acronyms, about it's hard for us people to understand what they mean. So LA stands for local authorities, which I've now known about. And there's so many other ones, and now we are getting through to people to be able to talk to us about what the word actually means.
Thank you, Kelsey. Yeah, so we're creating a book full of acronyms and explaining them to our staff and support workers. And since Kelsey mentioned LA, all I'm thinking about is Los Angeles.
And Chelsea, could I just say, sometimes, Kelsey, I don't sometimes understand all the acronyms. So, I'm really glad because that might help me too. Because I sometimes see things, if people don't put the full word in, you think, well, what does that abbreviation mean? So I think that will help lots of people.
So there is some acronyms we need to use, so like video and stuff, but most of them we are going to be able to ask people what they mean for the book, and also but we acknowledge for the people that we work with not to write down tell us the acronyms in interviews and stuff.
So we're at the bit where I like to do this and that. If you have listened to our podcast for quite a while, mine changes nearly every podcast of what I'm doing, and then something comes back again. So I would like to ask Rachel, what is on your download, I guess? What do you like doing, on hobbies and interests? And please take it so long so Michelle can edit it.
Thanks, Chelsea. Well, what do I like to do? All sorts of things. I'm really into exercise. So I like Pilates classes. So I tend to go to Pilates 2 or 3 times a week. And I find it's quite relaxing, but it's good exercise, but it's also quite relaxing and it helps calm your mind. So I really like to do that 2 or 3 times a week. And I go to spin classes. I don't know if you've heard of spin classes, but it's where you sit in a hot, sweaty studio on a bike, cycling like crazy with loads of other people to music. So I really love doing that as well. So I do quite a bit of that. And I've been reading a really interesting book at the moment. I did mention it in my weekly message to everyone a few weeks ago, but it's called The Failures of State. It's quite a big, long book, but it's about the pandemic. And it's written by 2 journalists who uncovered a lot of things about how badly the government ran the country during the pandemic. So it's a massive book. I think it's over 500 pages. I've just finished it. But I found it really interesting, but also those things in there that made me really cross about how the things the government did during the pandemic, which didn't make things easy. So I like reading, I like exercising. Now I've just finished that book, I'm going to read something a bit more light-hearted, I think, maybe a bit of a comedy to cheer me up after reading about the pandemic.
I finished the Greta Thunberg's climate book, so yeah, I was yeah, so that does seem like a busy week. How would you fit that around if you had to have a support worker in the evening?
How would I fit those things around?
If you had a support worker, let's throw it over to you.
Yeah, well, I guess it depends. If your support workers there to support you at the time you want to go to your exercise class, then your support workers should be supporting you to go to your exercise class if that's what you want to do, shouldn't they? So I think it's that. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Support workers there to help, and equally, if you're not getting support all the time, it's about that support being around the hours that you need it. So I might say, actually, I don't want you to come at 6 o'clock this evening because that's my Pilates class time, thank you, and I go on my own, and come and help me sort my dinner out later or whatever it is I need my help with.
Kelsey.
Well, I think most of you two know mine. So this weekend I'm going to do a 10k for Wakefield Hospice for my mum who passed away 14 years ago this year due to cancer. She was staying there and got looked after, so I'm doing a 10k this weekend, which I'm very nervous about. I'm going to be tired, but I'm also doing 100 miles for, I think it's called Stand or Strand or something. It's for mental health people, and I'm also doing that for my dad who passed away last year to mental health.
And now we want to cuddle you. I've as I said, I've tried to finish the Greta Thunberg book, so that's out of the way. Yeah, so sometimes I go to the pantry as I normally do, and I think the gardening groups and stuff is opening up, and there's thoughts of going back to the farm that used to be involved with, so that could be more hours. More hours I'm busy. Also I watched the other day, which was quite personal, was the autism in girls by Christine McGuinness, and that was about how it affects. So yeah.
And this week is Neurodiversity Celebration Week, isn't it? So yeah, that's this week. So that's all about celebrating neurodiversity. So I think it's good. There's been quite a lot of stuff on the telly around that.
Yeah, and Mum also let me know when Chris Peckham was on the telly as well, talking about it. And now it's time for Challenge the Lingo Bingo.
Challenge the lingo, lingo, lingo. Challenge the lingo, bingo!
So today's Challenge the Lingo Bingo is it's my parents' house, not my home. So I think what we're saying is that there's a separation of home and parents' home for it. I don't live at my parents' house. I haven't lived there for years. My brother's like, huh?
My parents are both in heaven, so I can't really call heaven my home. I call my own house my home.
That would actually be kind of funny, knocking on Evan's door going, I've come home now.
Oh, Eric Clapton. Sorry, that was a song by Eric Clapton, wasn't it? Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I mean, you'll know, anyone who knows me well, or not even that well, but reads right, will know how worked up I get about language and how much it presses my buttons. So it's funny this, isn't it? The reason why I was, I'm reflecting on it is I've got friends who would say when they're going back to the parents, they're going home for the weekend because that's how they'd see it, even though they don't live there anymore. So I think it's something that actually a lot of people would say, not necessarily some people who haven't got a learning disability. A lot of people would say actually they'd see that as going home. But I can also see why it feels like perhaps if you've not had the same freedom and lifestyle choices that other people, that feels quite difficult. So it's something I'd not thought about before as being something that might get on people's wick and annoy them. But now you flagged it, it's certainly something I'll remember. It's a tricky one, I think.
Yeah, it's like that, isn't it? But also I think sometimes the familiarity of going to your parents and getting fed or sleeping over, or sometimes that sort of thing, like going Christmas to your parents, and also with if parents are living in the same home that they were when you were children, like your grandparents and sort of things, and that childhood going back to the home sort of thing. Home, so it's like maybe sometimes for people it's like the second home.
So I'm into the more spirituality stuff. So I actually feel like my family around me who are in heaven. I can smell their perfumes, aftershaves and all sorts. So I always know that they're always around me when I'm down or when I'm thinking about them. So home is just my parents and knowing they're safe in heaven. But it's like they can actually see that I'm all grown up now and that I do need support, but not just as much as support I used to have. And I can actually cook for myself because I always feel my mum patting me on my shoulder, and I just know it's her, that she's nearby.
I like that thought of like them just like intimidating the support workers, going, I'm not sure about her, not Kelsey, they could just like knock the vase over a little bit, I don't like you.
It was like one of my main support workers knew my dad, She's known him all my life. She knew me all my life, which she still does, because she still supports me. But she's in Thailand right now on holiday. Friggin' jealous. I should be in a suitcase with her. So she always knew what he was like. So, whenever she's around, I just feel like Dad's literally sat next to her, trying to talk to her about what a car she's got now, like how our families and stuff, and like I just feel complete. For me, for my childhood home, it has bad negative stuff happen to me, because I was sexually assaulted in that house. So I don't actually call that my family house. I call my whole family home. So the people that I love, their home. So it's not actually a house that you live in. It's actually people that surround you and that you work with and stuff.
I think that's a really lovely thing, Kelsey, to say, and the right thing it is. Home is about it's about things that we feel connected to. Whether that's things, people, the things that feel special and important to us and make us feel fuzzy and warm and lovely. It's all of that, isn't it?
So if you want to get in contact with the Dimensions Council, that could be anything and everything. We need to make sure we keep our staff busy. Please contact Dimensions Council at dimensions-uk.org. Yeah. So there you go. You can contact us on that. Yeah, so it's been quite nice to have Rachel here, because she gets a little bit of a break from all the busy stuff and have a little bit of more of a laid back sort of chat and stuff than maybe she doesn't in her daily week. Maybe she'll come back later on in podcasts, maybe the big subjects maybe that we need to talk to you about. How have you found it, Rachel?
I've got to be honest. I was thinking I'm not getting invited till podcast number 8. I'm quite low down the list here. No, seriously, I was as soon as I got the invite, I was really pleased to come and talk to you. It's been a lovely end to my week. It's Friday afternoon, isn't it, as we're talking today. It's been I've got another meeting after this, but it's been a really nice end to my week. And I'm happy to come anytime. I think it's really important that I'm connected with the people we support and that I understand what's on people's minds and that I do what I can to shout about the things that are worrying you. So thank you for having me, and I hope you're going to have me back.
And I just want to say thank you very, very much to Rachel and Kelsey who have managed to be with me for a good few moments in their time of the week.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Did you say it? You said the last one, didn't you, Kels?
Yep.
You're doing very well, Rachel, for not getting us muggled up.
You do a very good job.